lots of myths out there about self-stimulation, and my goal right now is to tell you the most common ones and dispel them, okay? So let's talk about it. First of all, masturbation is normal. It's a form of self-love. 90% of men and 70% of women report that they masturbate regularly. There are many benefits to it. You learn about your body. You stay in touch with yourself. You learn how your sexual response is changing. You learn more about what turns you on. It's good for your overall blood flow. It's good for your mood because of all the feel-good chemicals that get released. It actually increases oxytocin and dopamine in your system, and it keeps the pipes clean. The blood flow is going to your genitals, and so it promotes overall blood flow in general, including when you're sexual with a partner. So masturbation is actually really good for you. So let's get to the myths. The most common one that I hear from people is, well, if you're self-stimulating and you're in a relationship, it must be a crappy relationship or a crappy sex life. Not true at all. Plenty. In fact, the majority of people in relationships, even if they have a very satisfying sex life, also self-stimulate. It does not mean anything about your relationship. Self-stimulation can be used as a stress reliever, as a pain reliever, as a headache cure, as a distractor, right? Don't think that you have a bad relationship if you have an urge to self-stimulate. That's just simply not true. The next myth is surprisingly common and actually sort of funny, but it's one we've probably all heard, at least as a joke, hopefully not literally, that you're going to grow hair on your palms or go blind. Obviously, neither of those are true. The majority of people would be blind and furry palmed. If that were the case, does not happen. That is a myth. More people probably believe in the myth department is that it will ruin your erections if you masturbate too much. In fact, the opposite is true. I mean, there are a few exceptions that I'll get to in a second, but in general, self-stimulation is good for erections for two reasons. One, because as I mentioned earlier, it promotes blood flow to the genital region, and that's what causes erections in the first place. But also because every time you orgasm, it is exercising your pelvic floor. And your pelvic floor, the muscles that surround your rectum or your anus and your scrotum, and also your core abdominal muscles, are the muscles that hold up all your reproductive organs, and they play a huge role in arousal and erections and orgasm. So the stronger your muscles are, the better your arousal and orgasms are. So exercising them regularly through self-stimulation is actually good for you. So it will not impede your erections. There are two exceptions to this, though. One is that if you are self-stimulating in a way that you can't replicate with a human being, then it could affect your ability to get aroused. So I talk to a lot of guys who, go inside, outside, bend it, do things that no human body or vagina or anus or wherever they're putting the penis during sex with someone else, they couldn't replicate that. So when you self-stimulate, if you've gotten really habituated and used to a unique form of stimulation that no human could replicate with their body, then you want to pull back from that. You want to stimulate yourself in a similar fashion to having sex with someone else if you want to be able to get aroused with someone else. The second caveat is I find a lot of people have a lot of guilt around self-stimulation or sexual guilt in general, which obviously will affect your erections. So if you are self-stimulating and you feel guilty about it and you feel bad about yourself, that's going to affect your sexual confidence. However, there is nothing to feel guilty about, and if you do struggle with sexual shame or guilt, make sure to seek out the help of a sex therapist to address it. And watch my video about getting over inhibitions, because you'll get some guidance there for that as well. The other common myth that I hear from men and from women is that self-stimulation will reduce your sensitivity, your penile or genital sensitivity. And once again, the only reason that's ever an issue is because you've habituated to a strange or an unusual form of self-stimulation that another partner can't replicate for you. And pornography, both with erections and sensitivity. If you are overusing pornography, meaning that you have habituated your system to only get aroused and reach orgasm through the use of porn, just like with that unusual self-stimulation strategy you may have, pornography can habituate your body to only getting aroused by a 2D image, because the way it registers in your brain when you're watching porn is that you're stimulated by, your brain is registering it as a 2D object, not as a human being. And then it creates a neural pathway, a mind-body connection, where you can only get aroused through a 2D image. So you definitely want to be careful with porn use, and there's more and more data coming out about this. I've made some videos about it, that you want to be careful and contain your porn use, and also not get distracted by how you measure up to the porn images, because that can cause some sexual dysfunction as well. If you're using pornography as a litmus test of how you're supposed to look, how your genitals are supposed to look, or how sex is supposed to go, because none of those things are representative in pornography. The final myth that I want to talk about is that you can masturbate too much. And that's just not true. So people think, oh, if I masturbate, too much, I won't be able to get aroused with a partner. Well, if you're using porn to masturbate all the time, like I said, that might be the case. But in general, self-stimulation will only be an act of self-love, promote blood flow, promote feel-good hormones, and in fact, even increase your testosterone in the moment. It won't affect overall your hormone levels, but there's nothing bad that can happen from self-stimulation. The only time it can be an issue, and you can do it too much, if we even can call it that, is when it's become addictive. And the way that you know that it's addictive is that you can't stop. You're doing it consistently, it's distracting you from your acts of daily living or your work, or you're doing it repeatedly instead of having sex with a partner who's available to you, and your sex life with that partner isn't existing because you're constantly self-stimulating, right? So if it is something that you don't feel in the driver's seat, you're doing to the exclusion of other activities, including sex with a partner when that's available to you, or work, or up in the middle of the night, especially with porn, I see that happening a lot, then there may be an addiction issue, and you definitely want to talk to a sex therapist and get support. So there you have it. Bottom line, none of these myths are true. If you are self-stimulating on a consistent basis, it's a form of self-love. Just do it in a way that doesn't detract too much from sex with someone else, and make sure you stay in the driver's seat and that you don't step into that addictive piece, which can be a slippery slope, no pun intended. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you'll be notified when the next video releases. If you like this episode, make sure to follow The Language of Love and listen to it on whatever platform you prefer.